the Commandant of the Atlantic Seas, Captain of the East Coast, your premier puffer right now, Hungry Body. Oh, he whistled it!
Wow!
Whistled it into
of
an
it.
up smash kick. Unbelievable. That is something you don't see every day.
Damn, in the back of the head. That is rude.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Upset. This is what we wanted to see today.
Hey everybody, welcome to Directional Influence episode 19, brought to you by VV Gaming. I am your host, VV Rapture, as always from Connecticut, Dakota, you know what it is. And today I'm here by myself. Unfortunately, my co-host Will and Punishment Divine, aka Matt, are not able to join me this week, so I'm running it myself, and we still got a great show, or rather, I've still got a really great show for you guys to listen to. Before we start our really big thing of the show, I'll quickly run down the latest. I got a Project M review I want to hit you guys up with, plus a special shout out I want to give to a special smasher who's pretty goddamn badass. And then after that, we have an epic interview with the one and only Youko of Show Me Your News, the podcast that was originally only Smash Bros, which is on Smashboards, and now it has a website. It's doing great, and you guys should all check it out. We'll hit you up with the link later. So please stay tuned for that, and that's really it. That'll be your episode. And this is Directional Influence episode 19, and tune in. Alright everybody, welcome to the Rundown. This is a new segment where I've just sort of come up with the top of my head. It's not a recurring one, but because I want to really leave a lot of time to the show for the episode we have coming up, I'm going to quickly go through the latest. You know, this is sort of a conglomeration of everything that's about to go on, so this is really the latest. I guess that's a better name for it. You know, it's a little weird doing it by myself. I'm just sort of sitting in my room and like usually looking at the Skype thing like, oh, there's Will, there's PD doing this with me, or my guest or whatever, but it's just me and my cat, so... yeah, but anyway, stereotypical loser in his bedroom, but anyway. So, Pound obviously coming up this next weekend, not obviously this weekend, next weekend in Arlington, Virginia. You guys, last day of registering is the 11th, which is tomorrow as of this recording. I'm sorry, as of, the release. So, 2/11/2011, hit that up. You better be going to Pound. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the best tournaments of the year, of ever, maybe, hopefully. And it's going to be great. I hope you guys all check it out. Now, for the current Project M, the demo has officially been released, and I've got my hands on it, have many people actually. It's really great. If you haven't gotten your hands on it, get on it right now. Here's what I'll tell you why. The reason why I personally am a huge fan of the project itself is because it's very professional. It doesn't feel like an amateur attempt, So when I plug, my Wii in and I'm able to, I keep my Wii unplugged sometimes, I don't know why. But when I get it in, I get it running, it feels smooth, it feels crisp, it feels polished. And despite, some of the, things they haven't fixed yet, it's still a work in progress, which is, perfectly fine in my eyes. The package overall is wonderful. It really is. So when I, first started playing it, I was really amazed at how well I was, able to understand how the game was put together. There's a lot of time and effort that was put into it, and you can tell by all the very fine details they have. There's some cool additions, and, all of that. And any Smasher really, I think, will enjoy it. To get your hands on it, you can hit up the Project M website, which we will link to you on the post, so you can check that out. That'll be one of the links that we'll have. Overall, the game itself is a demo. It's just about a dozen characters, a little over that, I guess. I can't remember the exact count, but there's mostly Melee veteran characters, plus you have characters from Brawl that were such as Sonic, Snake, and Lucas. And then they're obviously joined, as I said, from Melee veterans, Fox, Falco, Sheik, Zelda, Game & Watch, Ganondorf, Mario, Link, the works. A great batch of characters really show off the game's, new style. And I say new because we've obviously been dealing with Brawl lately, as of 2008. So it's really a nice, refreshing look at it. All the characters feel really nice and smooth. I personally, my favorites are Mario and Lucas. Those guys really surprised me, especially Lucas, who I love. He has a new neutral B. He plays really like a little quirky, I think, but it's really fun. And that's the big thing too. It's a very fun demo of what seems to be a very amazing game. Now you may think, well, what's the point of picking it up? What's really the value of it? And to be honest, I feel like this is a demo that is not going to just quench your thirst for a little bit. This is a demo you'll play for a while, a very long time. And the reason I say that is because it's addicting and it's fresh. That's the thing. If someone came with a new Brawl mod that felt more like Brawl, I mean, yeah, it's a new thing, but I personally wouldn't find the motivation to keep playing it. But every day since I've gotten the game, the demo rather, it's sucked me in. I've been trying to play StarCraft and I just can't because this game is right there. It's great to feel that sort of hype and that sort of excitement over a Smash Bros. Game, which, honestly, Brawl for me is one of those hype games because I love the community, I love playing the game, but it feels fresh. It's really what I'm trying to, bang into your heads right now. The game, as I said, has several characters, which you all play all fully functional. They feel great. As I said, Mario and Lucas are my favorites, but guys like Fox and Falco and Ganondorf especially, they feel amazing. They play great, and all the cool advanced techniques you guys are all used to, wave dashing, L canceling, etc., all are back, and they feel great. It's a little different though, as I've noticed, and I've talked to other people. Things aren't exactly the same as they were in Melee, so I would, you're gonna, find that some of the things that you did in Melee aren't gonna be exactly the same, but you have to relearn them and practice them, which I feel is actually really cool because it feels more like a new game that way. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm playing Melee again. It's one of those little details that sort of change it up a little bit, which I find to be really useful because it doesn't just become a Melee clone anymore, which I think sort of separates it in a better way. Um, Aside from that, there's also stages. A lot of the Brawl stages have been brought back either from their, normal sort of setting, like Battlefield is pretty much essentially the same. Rather, there are other stages, for example, Four-Side, which is a remake of the Four-Side stage from Melee, and it looks great. There's the remake of Kirby's stage from N64, Yoshi stage from N64, Saffron City, one of my favorite stages, and it looks amazing, aside from the fact there's no Pokemon coming out of that building, which sort of pisses me off, but that's okay. And then some newer things, the WarioWare stage, as you guys have probably seen without the little mini games, as well as a sort of Battlefield-ish stage, which is based off of the Temple stage from Melee, called Temple M, which is really cool. And then there's a lot of other amazing additions, as well as returns from Brawl like Hailbird and Lilac Cruise and whatnot. And or is Hailbird in it? I don't know. I forget Orphan is in it too, which is nice. And also the original Final Destination, from Melee, which is great because I mean it feels great to play on that again, and it looks cool. So the stages really, really were a great way to have that going, and obviously, also take into account the ability to change your controls that you can in Melee. That you could in Brawl, but you couldn't in Melee, is great. Now you can nail cancel with another button or whatever. But I mean, overall, the package is amazing. It's not something that's going to let you down. Some people I've talked to are like, oh, it's Project M. I'm not really interested. And there are a lot of people I actually have talked to who aren't really interested. But be interested. Trust me. It's great. It really is. It's a fun, fast-paced demo of what's going to be an amazing game, and I can't wait to look out for it. So for me, personally, from Rapture, hit this game up. It's great, and I hope you all enjoy it. I hope, hit me up on Wi-Fi. I like playing on Wi-Fi. Me and my friends have been playing it. So please, hit up Project M, the demo. You can go download it. It's for free. If you have a modded Wii and unmodded Wii, you can still play it. So go hit it up. It's the Project M demo, and it's out there, and you should be playing it right now. And now, after this, the Spotlight, where we are joined by Youko of Show Me Your News. So stay tuned. Alright everybody, that brings us to our roundtable discussion, and here with me a very special guest, also a podcaster. You guys may know him from Show Me Your News. A really great guy, Youko. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Rapture?
I'm doing great, and I would love to have you on the show, and your show is awesome. Just want to say that right out.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's too kind.
Yeah, everyone listening, go check it out. We'll give you the link for that later if you haven't already heard about it, but you probably should have because it's that awesome, really it is. So, to get right into this, who exactly are you and what role do you play on Show Me Your News?
Who am I? Well, as you mentioned, I do go by the internet moniker of Youko. And Show Me Your News. What role do I play? I am the creator and current co-host, and all around I am the embodiment of Show Me Your News. And what Show Me Your News is, In July of 2007, it started as the weekly weekend podcasting source recapping the latest news regarding Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And it was basically taking, you know the dojo. If you're a fan of Smash Brothers, you remember the dojo, and it had the updates every day. And so what Show Me Your News did was on the weekend for 35 straight weeks up till the game's release in March of 2008. It basically covered all the news, recapped it in a really nice, friendly format. And we made some changes over the course of the show, added new segments, stuff like that. It was, as Anchorman, you could quote, it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the hype around Brawl back then was astounding. I mean, I remember staying up into the wee hours of the night waiting for Bowser to show up under the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listened to you guys oh, I just saw this. Now everyone else knows what I was doing, but it was great. So I mean, you guys ended up doing this. Why exactly did you start doing this? Why do you feel like you needed to do a weekly podcast almost about this news?
That's a good question. I think have you seen The Social Network recently? Okay, so in that movie, and you could say for other things, it all started because of a girl. And it's really weird, but I was going through a really rough time in my life back then, and it was a really rough breakup and everything, first love, 4-year relationship, all that shit. And basically as a result of it, I was going through a lot of medical issues with stress and all that, and it was really messing up my life. So what I decided to do, I needed to take my mind off this somehow. And, fans of the podcast, I've told the story a little bit before, but through my pain and misery, I decided, I have, this really nice recording equipment. I've kind of wanted to try some sort of thing where I work on, broadcasting, public speaking, impromptu speaking, that kind of thing. Because I had done a little bit before, but it's technology. It's the internet. It could be a new adventure. And I love Super Smash Brothers. I'm following the dojo. I'm really excited, and I check the updates. So, and I visit Smashboards because at the time I went to the University of Michigan. Our dorm hall was really big into Smash Brothers, and I learned about Smashboards and all that great stuff. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I said, well, Smashboards has its own podcast that was going on for a few episodes, but they had kind of taken a break for a few months. So I'm just throwing the idea out there, made a new thread and say, hey, I'm a potential podcaster, recap the dojo updates. And to be honest, some of you may not believe this if you weren't back around by the time, and people were saying, why do you need to do this? What is the point of a podcast? Can't we just read the updates? And I'm thinking, well, no, it's, kind of saves it for posterity, gives a different insight, some community feedback, some input there. It mostly just would document it and, kind of capture the fascination and the overall mindless speculation that we had at the time, because they were crazy times.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did the show get started? I scripted it out. For the first 11 shows, the entire thing was scripted. So I, was taking summer school classes at the time. During lectures, I'd be outlining the show and kind of writing about what updates I'd discuss and how I would break it down, what opinions I'd give. And, it was really basic, just, uploading it to, I think the website was esnips.com. It was because, I didn't know how to, do iTunes or any of that stuff. And it turns out you need web space and all that fun stuff, or even someone to back you. But it was a really small venture at the time, and it really just grew and grew in popularity despite initial resistance, and it was all because of a girl.
All because of a girl, so they're good for something, but
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys obviously were very successful, early on, even though despite the fact that people really didn't find a need for it almost. Mm-hmm. But what do you think was really the most pivotal thing that started generating that sort of success?
I think the reason that it became so successful at the time was not just the overall hype behind the game. I mean, there are few games that generate such popularity. I think one that's current and the game that I think I'm most excited for, with this kind of anticipation since Smash Brothers Brawl is Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
It's just fighting games and how, or if people want to call Smash Brothers a fighting game, or they have issues about calling it that. I personally, love the competitive scene and all that, so I have no qualms about calling it that. But maybe it's just fighting games, that bring out, they just bring out the passion in all the fans and all the anticipation, like who's going to be on the roster, what features are there going to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and people just love to speculate about it. So I think Brawl was one of those games that really just captured the fascinations of gamers and especially just Nintendo fans. But as far as the podcast and what its design did, I think what we did really successfully was initiate a lot of fan feedback. We had a topic called the Brawl Viewpoint. So this is a segment of the show where people got to either write up their own little idea of anything regarding Brawl, or even get a microphone and speak. And I think that was a good thing for people to kind of get into the whole what is a podcast, how can it interact with the forum, how can you give the feedback, to actually speak up and really take a topic that you really care about and bring it to the forefront of the community. I think the Brawl Viewpoint idea was, as much as as good of an idea as it wasn't something that I guess over time people really kept up with, because it does take a lot of dedication. I think when people realized it actually takes time to come up with an idea and to speak about it and to edit it together, and then it's and then someone actually does the entire show like this. It does take some time for people to actually come up with the idea. So over time it did kind of die down, I think, but I think it was that idea and the overall community involvement and just the passion for Brawl that really helped Show Me Your News take off at the time.
Cool. I mean, I definitely feel the same thing. I mean, with ours, it's very community-based, and, one of the things we really thrive on is the feedback, So we love having guests on the show because people can relate to the competitive gamers that are on the show because they've played with them, they're good friends with them. They like to hear about, people they know.
Yeah.
It's that connection that keeps people listening. That's why, radio does it so well, because if the people don't listen to it, they're not going to care, and vice versa.
Absolutely, sure.
Definitely. So, and you said obviously you started this yourself, but did you actually have a co-host originally when you started this?
Originally, when I started this, I did not.
By yourself?
I was when I started this, and it was in July 2007. That was the time. It was the first two episodes were. The first episode was basically E3's coming up. There should be something about Brawl. And then the second episode was, E3 happened, and then, we get the very classic clip of Reggie Fils-Aimé saying, not next year, not next spring. I can announce today that Smash Brothers Brawl will launch in the Americas on December 3rd. So at the time, I was thinking, okay, 4 months of this, I'll get over all this, shit that's happened to me, and that'll be that. And of course, then Brawl gets delayed to February, and then it gets delayed to March. Was it, I think, February 10th and March 9th or something like that?
Yeah. That's crazy, So your hopeful thinking just sort of spun out of control.
It just kept growing. But no, I did not have a co-host originally. And the story behind how I met one Samurai Panda, which was
remember this guy.
Who was integral for the podcast growth. In episode 7, I believe it was, so we had the Brawl Viewpoint where people could contribute the feedback, and Samurai Panda in episode 7 did one, and I can't even remember what the topic was off the top of my head. When you do 79 episodes,
I know what you mean.
They all kind of blur together.
Yeah.
But he had one of the best submissions by far. And so we started talking a little bit through PMs on Smashboards, and he's like, "Oh, you go to Michigan as well?" I'm like, "Yeah, I live in Bursley Hall." "Oh, I lived in Bursley Hall." And so it was right around episode 11 that, when that was about coming out, we went to a bi-weekly Smash tournament, and we met each other for the first time, and we talked for 2 hours straight about Brawl, and you could tell right then it just clicked, and we had an idea, let's do a roundtable discussion instead of just recording it on your own. We'll do some sort of Skype call. At the time we tried Ventrilo, and that just worked poorly.
Yeah.
And then I think people still say to this day, like, "Oh, you should try Ventrilo if Skype's giving you problems." No, I will never ever
We tried
try
that once,
Ventrilo.
and it just don't do it. Like,
No,
yeah.
just don't.
Just don't do. If you're like trying to make a podcast with anybody, just don't do that. That's just a
It's
terrible
Skype.
idea.
It's
It
Skype
really
all
Skype
the
it.
way.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. I mean, when I started this, I had a co-host, but it was sort of like spur of the moment. Like when I started this show, and
Mhm.
I think I've told this story once or twice, but not many times. But I did it off of like someone guessing what idea I had because I was thinking of something else. Like, oh, you should do a Smash Bros podcast. I'm like, okay. And then the same night, I hit up my two co-hosts, and which I had never met before in real life, and I'm like, yo, let's do a podcast. And it wasn't until
Interesting.
it wasn't until our 6th or 7th episode that we'd actually met in real life at a Long Island tournament.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, now Samurai Panda is in medical school. He's insanely busy. So there was a time where, he had to basically make the choice, like, I have to focus on school. Show Me Your News is not that as feasible. Like, you can't, like, keep doing this, like, every other week or so. So I had some time on my own, and now my buzzsaw is the co-host. The buzzsaw is now my co-host for Show Me Your News, and he's doing an amazing job fitting in. But we haven't even met in real life, so
Yeah.
I totally understand the feeling because he and I live on pretty much opposite sides of the country, so.
Yeah.
There's kind of an explanation for that. But no, I mean, I think a co-host is really important for a podcast, or at the very least, like, getting guests. I think when I look back on the original podcast for Show Me Your News, like, it was just me speaking, and I don't know how people listen to that.
Yeah.
Especially when it's changed so much, and it's a little, I shouldn't say a little, it's a lot more dynamic right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I mean, you can't just listen to one guy talk all the time. As much as engaging as he is.
Although, my goodness, people said I had a smexy voice. But, like, no, it's not that smexy. Come on.
It's not bad. I'm enjoying it.
I didn't say it was bad.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You guys obviously ran off Smashboards, and eventually you got to a point where you weren't on Smashboards anymore. Why exactly did this happen? Why did you guys leave, or how did that actually work?
We at Show Me Your News dub it the MLG story because Show Me Your News was a big deal. I mean, there was a point where myself, Samurai Panda, and Gimpy Fish were like the 3 biggest names in Brawl. It's unbelievable to fathom that even occurred at one point in time. But it was right around the 39th episode of the show. We had just done a few episodes after the release of Brawl, and Major League Gaming decided to buy out Smashboards. So what was involved in that process was that they moved the servers for Smashboards, where the podcast was running through Smashboards. We didn't have our own site, so all the podcast files were uploaded on Smashboards servers. And when the servers moved, all the links that were connected to iTunes were broken.
Yeah.
Because the file structures had all changed, and so iTunes is trying to call files that don't exist anymore. And then actually MLG moved servers again very shortly after. So like it was completely messed up. And as a result, after then, for about 10 episodes or so, we kept going, and we kept trying to make contact with Major League Gaming saying, we'd really like you to fix this because we've got our fans hanging, and we have, it was maybe up to 10,000 listeners, with Smashboards and iTunes and everything all together. And they said, oh, no, we'll get to it. We have our corporate agenda. We have tournaments coming up. We're really busy, but we'll get to it. And, months and months and months passed by. And technically, the thread still is on Smashboards. I moved it when I was a mod, like over to the Lighthouse, so it's in General Gaming right now. But the thread is still on Smashboards. The problem is when, people were listening originally to the initial feed on iTunes that they had followed for so long, and they were following the thread on Smashboards, I think Major League Gaming buying it out, I don't like putting a scapegoat on them, but the technological change and then their unwillingness to cooperate in fixing the problem they caused was kind of the demise and downfall of our overall fan base. And we're still trying to get those numbers back, but it's so much more difficult, obviously.
Yeah. But you guys end up expanding into a general gaming podcast, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love Super Smash Brothers. Obviously, I still have a big passion for it. Did you get to try the new Project M?
I did.
That just came out.
Yeah, I did. We actually did a review on the show earlier, and I've been playing the demo a lot since it came out. I don't have a modded Wii, so I got to play the unhackable one. Everyone thinks I'm a loser, but I mean, it's great. I'm a huge fan of Melee. I followed Melee when it was on the MLG circuit. I played with my friends since I got it when I was a kid, and I mean, I love it. I feel like it's what Brawl should have been. And I hate to say it because I love Brawl, and when we talked about Melee on a previous episode not too long ago, people were like, "Oh, everyone, you guys stop hating on Brawl." But to be honest, it's a game, and I have a right to like it, but for the fact that I love Melee more, I just like the gameplay more. I found it a lot more fast paced. So when Project M Melee was announced, and we did an interview with someone from on that team a while back, I was hyped. I had to get the demo. I mean, when the day it was supposed to come out, I sat there for 6 hours waiting for it to come out until midnight, and then it was midnight. I'm like, oh, I have to go to school, so I waited until school was over the next day to play it. But it was worth it, and it's great.
It is a lot of fun. I just got to try it a couple hours ago because I had my birthday yesterday, and then I was at this film show. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And then I was at a film shoot all day today. So I finally got around to playing it, and we interviewed some Project M guys as well. So we still at Show Me News really care a lot about Smash Brothers. I mean, it's awesome that you guys picked up the slack and are actually doing a competitive Brawl podcast. It's actually very flattering to me that someone's actually picked up those reins. But we still really obviously care about Smash. But I think overall, I'm more fascinated by gaming as a whole. So I think it was more of an attempt to, as a result and as a reaction to the whole Major League Gaming thing, to try to gain back some people, just get a broader perspective, and to appease some of my own, aspirations for the show after, 35 straight weeks of episodes, blah, blah, blah. I really wanted to go with a general gaming focus. I think it's been the right decision for me to make, because now it isn't just talking specifically about Smash. I get to talk to my friends and all these acquaintances and alliances and associates that I've made over the years about video games as a whole. And there's really no discrimination in that. It's not just strictly Nintendo because it's Smash, blah, blah, blah. It's, I may have, harsher words to say about Sony because I disagree with some of their practices. But I still obviously care deeply about Nintendo, but I think also for my professional future, I think it was the right choice to make because I get to be a little bit more objective and, kind of study and understand the industry as a whole. So it may have, disappointed, I think, for some of it was a big dividing point at the time because people did want only Smash and, it should be all Smash all the time. So I think it was a bit of a dividing point at the time, but I think in the long run, as far as me not burning out on Show Me News, the fact that I just get to talk about anything gaming related makes me a lot happier about the show.
Yeah, I definitely know what you feel. I mean, when we started our show, we went into it wanting to do a competitive Brawl because that's what the three of us play. But we also went into it with a casualness because we do talk about casual things. And recently we've been talking about, Marvel and, just news in general. But we went into it with a casualness that we know that we can take an episode to literally talk about nothing competitive and be perfectly fine with it. And in a good way, too, because, we had an episode where we talked about, my co-host's time with, the cops at a library, which was very entertaining, and it had nothing to do with Brawl at all, but because it's community-based, people want to hear about the community too, and we're part of the community, so, yeah, I mean, I definitely, talking about competitive Smash over and over again, there are some days where I'm like, oh, God, I'm doing this again, but it's fun, and I know in the end that's what's worth it, and, the guys that, the expansion you guys made, really, it's sort of what we're doing. We're trying to reach out more people too, and you guys are doing it in a really great way. And I would say I would have to, I appreciate and I commend that sort of taking the next step, despite the fact that some people didn't really agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the end, it's your efforts and it's what you want to do if you continue the show. And if it, adds more listeners or people prefer it, and then it's all the better.
Yeah. So you seem very satisfied with it then, I would say.
Absolutely. I'm very happy with, what Show Me News has become. The success we had originally was unbelievable, to be honest. And yes, the whole Major League Gaming thing was crippling, but I think the fact that it didn't kill us completely, I'm really happy that, we've actually stuck it out. Do I wish that, we regain some of that past glory? I miss it, so I kind of do. And I think for our show, I personally put too much, effort into it for it not to. That's kind of weird for me to say. For it not to get that kind of recognition, because it was once there, and it feels strange for it not to be as successful. But in the end, it's what I love doing. It's professional experience for me. For some background for new listeners, I graduated from University of Michigan with a film, TV, video degree, and so basically I'm right now at the point of trying to find an internship or entry level just to get the professional career going. But Show Me Your News is the highlight of my resume, and it's one of the many reasons why I keep it going, because it is so impressive when you see for 3.5 years he's created media, he's broadcasted, he speaks impromptu and organizes a community and puts in all this effort, and he knows website, some design and social networking, production, all this stuff. But then at the same time you think about they're these old CEOs and they don't understand any of this. So
unfortunately,
I mean, I am satisfied with where it is. I want to see Show Me Your News keep growing, with the buzzsaw and all his technical expertise. It's something we're trying to work on, but I don't have any iota of dissatisfaction for Show Me Your News and all that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a great show. There's no reason for you not to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you guys have been doing this for a long time. A long time, because I've had my show since August, and it feels like a snap of the fingers. That's it. But you guys have been doing it for such a long time. What is your, favorite memory of hosting the show? The favorite part of Show Me Your News, since then?
There are a lot of favorite memories. You have all the inside jokes that I'm sure especially for your podcast, when you get a fan base and you have certain things happen, little inside jokes. We have so many. We have all clocks, and we have certain things like the Mario RTS. When fans can recognize those words, and new listeners are just what is that? It's kind of a fun little experience to show you where you've come from. We've had a lot of really amazing guests, to be honest. I'm just amazed that I've been able to talk to these people. Let's see, Ego Rapture, Kerbifer, Rina-chan. We recently interviewed Little Karibo. I still someday kind of want to interview James Rolfe, also known as the Angry Video Game Nerd. That's kind of a secret aspiration of mine. But not only that, but just amazing Smash Brothers players. Just the connections that I've made over the show. To live a year as a roommate with Samurai Panda, and have basically it be the center of Midwest Smash, when people from out of state would come to the apartment to stay, and we'd have Lane come over, we'd have Anther come over, and Allie even stayed at our apartment for a couple months, and there were tournaments where Mewtwo King would even come up, and they'd have their epic battles at our university. Those are memories I'll never forget. I think though, with the change to the gaming podcast, and it's something I'm trying to continue this year on my own merits, but I was fortunate enough to get the connection to go out to E3 this past summer in Los Angeles, and got to be fifth row at the Nintendo conference and tried the 3DS and all that stuff, and it was amazing. Like, just to bring back that insight to the podcast and to have the hope to possibly do it again this year it means so much to me. And I think overall, just the favorite part is just the friendships and the opportunities. And when you have something that lasts over 3 years, that there's a lot of those kind of memories.
I'm a little jealous. I really am. That's really cool. That's a really cool stuff. I hope that I can build that sort of same thing with this show. So that's really cool. You have that.
I wish you the best of luck on it, really.
Thanks.
I mean, Brawl there is like no better audience of people to appeal to, because Smashers as a whole are probably the nicest gamers you'll ever meet. And I don't know if people like ever think about this, but when you associate with competitive Smashers, like, these are people that you share such a bond with in a game that when you go out of state, like, they have no problem like lending a room or like a futon or a place to stay. You think about like other competitive games like that. I can't really speak from experience, but I don't know of like any other competitive gamers. Like, people would be like at each other's throats. They'd be cutthroat to win. And Smashers are a family. So I think, for those kind of experiences and those, acquaintances that you meet over time, like, there's no better community of, to appeal to than, Super Smash Brothers players.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great community. I do commentary for the show, and at one point when I went to a tournament in New York City, and I was just doing commentary, and I was just talking to all these people and hanging out, I was happy. It wasn't I wasn't stressed, I wasn't anxious. I was just happy with friends. And as much as I am god awful at Brawl competitively, and I know that, it's great. It's something that I will cherish for a while, because I'm great. I'm glad that I got into it. It's something that I don't regret. But you've done it for a while too. What do you think the hardest part of the show has been? Like, you've done it for so long. Has it been like an obstacle, or just something that's really been hard for you to get through?
The whole Major League Gaming thing aside, because it is a major obstacle. But ignoring that for the time being, like, there are times when you just keep up the consistent schedule, and which I think is something really important if people are like wanting to start their own podcast. Like, make sure you keep to a consistent schedule. It just helps the fan base like know what to expect, and especially if you keep to it, like, that really helps the perception of your show. But over time, you're going to get burned out. And I've definitely had a couple instances of that. I think one of which was it was after our 49th episode, and we were considering, this is where like Panda was starting to get into medical school, and trying to keep up with the show was really difficult, and it was a little frustrating in a way. So I tried to do like a little bit of a video podcast spinoff, and fans of the show, may remember that. It took a lot of effort to do that, and it kind of burned me out for a little bit, and we basically, in a way, took a hiatus for a few months. And then I went to Youmacon 2009 was the first Youmacon I went to in Detroit, which is an anime convention. And we met up with Cyberlink 420, my brother and I. We met up with Cyberlink 420, who's a big fan of the show and had been a guest a couple times. And, we hung out a couple times. He got some shout-outs for Show Me Your News from, like, all these guests, like Little Karibo, Team 4-Star, that guy with the glasses, and different voice actors were, plugging, like, my name is this, blah, 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 and I implore you to show me your news. And it like, relit a fire. And so from there, he started episode 50, and we've been going. It started, like, I think was that every other week? I think we might have started the bi-weekly episodes from there, and it's just, kind of, I think, like, there are certain events, like, every once in a while that just kind of relight the fire. Just pretty recently, actually. It was about a month or two ago. For my 77th episode, we did a Game of the Year awards show, and I shouldn't say we. It was, I put in a ton of effort where it took like 3 days of editing, at least a couple weeks of writing, recording, getting people's lines, and we put on like an hour and a half of an actual award show that didn't suck like the Spike VGAs do.
Yeah.
And it was like stuff like that when you like see you get to exert your passion for the show, is it kind of rekindles that fire. So I think the hardest part is when you burn out from time to time again, but there are events, there are moments that will get you, if you really care about your fans and you care about the show and you care about what you do, like that fire will get lit very quickly again.
It will. I mean, I had a few people. I actually had someone talking to me not too long ago. He said, "How do you guys keep doing it?" And it's not a question to ask because I don't know sometimes. We had, I mean, we have a very consistent amount of fans for having such a small show and so recent. And we had an episode where it just we were burnt out from the week, and there wasn't anything going on, and we had a very low amount of viewers that time. And I was burnt out, and I was like I was just wrought by the amount of people that didn't listen. But at the same time, I was like, I got to do better. And the next episode was like our best episode in terms of views, and I don't know why. I still can to this day cannot understand why we got so many. We got like 1,000 hits in like a weekend, and that's the biggest and the fastest we've had in a while, if at all. And I just didn't understand it. And that just got me like, oh wow, I got to do this again and again and again every single week. And
well, it takes a special kind of person, and like if you've kept it up for this long. And that is not dirty in any way, my God. If you've kept it going for this long, it takes a special kind of person, a special kind of drive to really continue that. Because it's so many people, like if they were to try and like they don't have that desire to really want to keep at it, like it'll just be over in a few shows, and they're like, screw this,
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. It's that Smash thing. I feel like I met a lot of Smashers who've gone like back and forth, like I don't know if I want to keep playing anymore, but they can't get out of it. I don't think I can get out of it either.
That's a good analogy.
Thank you. I came up with it myself. So, one final thing though. I mean, the show's been running for so long. Time and time again, I'll say that because it's just amazing how far it's gone. What are your thoughts on the future of the show? Like, what do you really think about that?
I think when I think about the future of the show, I think about my own future. And now that I'm out of school, like the whole issue of job and career and all that stuff, like really start creeping in your head. So I really, part of my deep down desire and hope is that somehow Show Me Your News is profitable. Because part of, I guess, people's amazement with the show and, other podcasts like yours, as you well know, you don't get paid.
No.
Unless you get like some sort of sponsorship or connection where it becomes an actual job as opposed to like a hobby that you put a lot of time towards. That's the goal is for it to ultimately become something. I think, especially, you're going to be entering college soon. When you're out of college, like it weighs even more heavily on your mind. Like, can this become a job? Because I don't think anything would really make me happier. I would love to work in TV or do post-production editing or, just keep working making media. But if Show Me Your News were to become profitable and like I could make a living studying the video game industry, speaking about it, writing about it, and have it be my job, and like I could make an actual living doing that, I think that is the pie in the sky goal, if you will. Like the aspiration that you hope to achieve, but at the same time you don't know how.
Yeah.
So, I'm right now working at Toys R Us and retail and working in the electronics department, and I'm by far the most knowledgeable person there, and I'm trying to like actually find internships and jobs, and like it's something that's constantly on my mind, but I always have Show Me Your News to go back to kind of as a base. Like I've almost known nothing else for the past 3.5 years. So my thoughts on the future is that to keep it going strong, to keep making an impression on people, to do some networking, maybe do some affiliations, and ultimately have a company give a damn and, you know, help us make money.
Yeah,
It sounds selfish, I know, but when you work on it for so long and, you know, all I've gotten is, you know, Major League Gaming sending a $150 check my way because keep up the good work that you do for Smashboards. Like when that's all you get in the past 3.5 years, like you want more to sustain your livinghood. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the luxurious part of not having to worry about that right now. But I mean, I'm scared. You know, what does the next 4 years hold for me? Because I got college, and I mean, thankfully, I don't host the show myself. VV Gaming. I'm sure you're a little aware of them because I know Gimpy Fish does some stuff with them. They host a show, so thankfully I don't have to come out of my pocket for it. But still, I mean, I would love for this to grow. I mean, I've envisioned doing so many things, working with tournaments and being able to do media for that and whatnot. And it's that desire. I think it's great, but it's also raises a concern because what if it doesn't work? But I think for you guys, I think you especially because you definitely have a good head on your shoulders and you have a great show going, and I love listening to it. I think it'll work out well for you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the interview, guys. I want to thank you once again, Youko, for joining me. I mean, it's amazing being able to talk to you and be in your presence almost, if you will.
No, please.
It really is. It really is. It's great just being able to just talk to you.
If you want to learn more about Show Me Your News, if you used to be a listener, I am not begging you, but please come back. We've done a lot of great stuff since you may have listened last. So you can find us on iTunes. Search for us at Show Me Your News at the iTunes store. Our website is showmeyournews.com. It doesn't get any easier than that. Join our forums. We like to claim we're the friendliest fan community on the net. Find us on Twitter at Show Me Your News. Find us on Facebook. Well, you got to search Show Me Your News. And if you want to listen or follow my ramblings on Twitter, I am at SMYN Youko. That is YOUKO. SMYN Youko.
Guys, definitely hit him up. It's a great show, and trust me, if you like this show, you'll like that show probably 10 times more. And I hope you all listen to it. And once again, I really thank you for joining us on the show. It's
sure.
been great. All right, guys, and that is your interview for tonight. Alright everybody, that brings us to the end of the show. I want to thank VVV Gaming for hosting the show as always. I want to thank my co-host for not being here. That sounds bad, but I want to thank them for being with me for, as long as we've had them, so it's pretty cool. I want to thank Youko for joining me on the show. I want to thank the Project M team for making an amazing game, or demo of a game, which is awesome. I hope you guys will all play it. I will be linking you all to, Show Me Your News. I'll link you to the Project M demo, and I'll also link you to Stemage's site. Stemage is the band that provides the music for the show, so thanks to them for allowing us to do that. And you can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, All Is Brawl, Smashboards. Hit us up on our Facebook group, Directional Influence. On my Twitter is VVV Rapture. I, post random stuff as well, updates on the show there. And then you can find us on VVV Gaming site too, our blogs and All This Brawl, and our thread on Smashboards. So, for this time, oh, by the way, we'll be changing times for the show. The show will now be released on Tuesdays, so the next episode will be this coming Tuesday. So please, stay tuned for that. No more Fridays, and that'll be Tuesdays, so you have more time to listen to it before your tournament. So, hit that up. That'll be Tuesday. So episode 20 will be Tuesday. So please listen for that. And I am Rapture, and this is Directional Influence, and thanks for listening. Have a nice day.